rather than stepping back and saying, well, what would be a much better place for me to get to? So some rules. So I have this 80-degree rule, so Mike's 80-year-old rule. So when I'm 80, I want to be able to look back and say that I did X, Y, or Z, right? When I'm 80, what do I want to be able to say I did with my life? Do I want to say that I had a boring job where I went to it every day and got a little raise every now and then? Or do I want to say that I've done something really significant and different from the rest of the world? Okay. So when you're 80, what do you want to say that you did? What do you want to say that you accomplished with your life? What big achievements do you want to say that you've actually accomplished? Okay. So that's my 80-year-old rule. This really helps prioritize what I do and what I invest my time in. Okay. So again, think, would you rather say, well, I tried it and failed, or succeeded, which is really a better outcome? Or do you want to say, I always wanted to try X, but I never did. I never did. I always wanted to go to Australia, but I never did. Right? Which is better? So some people, they don't try something out because they're going to be like, well, I'm not going to be good at that. I'm going to fail. Right? There's this fear of failure. Right? But it's much better to say, well, I tried it, and it wasn't for me, or I couldn't do it, or whatever, than to say, well, I always wanted to try it, but I never did. Okay? So use this to prioritize your life. Okay? The passion rule. So this is another thing. So what are you passionate about? Find your passion and follow it. Okay. Really, this is the path to success. So we have grad students who come in, and one of the first things we try to do is figure out what really drives them, because what drives them is going to lead to them doing great stuff. Okay. If we just simply give them home and say they do X, Y, Z, right? Then their passion is not going to be in it. Okay. So a great example of this is Isaac Asimov. So Isaac Asimov, how many people know who he is? Wow, about half. So Isaac Asimov was a science fiction writer. He also wrote a lot of science articles as well. Okay? Very, very prolific writer. I think he wrote over 500 books in his lifetime, or 500 books or articles.
Another example might be Hitler and visual arts.
Hitler and visual arts.
He always wanted to be an artist, but he got shut down. He got kicked out of school or something, so he decided killing people.
Yeah, so
that's from
keeping this on a positive note. Isaac Asimov. So people would ask him, what does it take to be a good writer? And he said, well, if when you wake up in the morning, the first thing you want to do is go over to the typewriter and start writing, that's a good indication that you can be a writer. Or that's what, that's a good measure of success of whether you're going to be successful or not. Right? So what is the thing you want to do when you first wake up in the morning besides like get breakfast? Right? What is it that's really driving you? Find that passion and pursue it. The hard rule.
It's not sure it's depressing.
Why is it depressing?
I feel like I have no passion.
So it's not unusual to not know what to do with your life at this point in time, right? But going back, you should try stuff out, because the only way you're going to know is to actually try it and do it, right? So if you're like, well, this kind of seems interesting, try and do it. So for me personally, when I first entered college, so university, in the States, we say college and university. When I first entered university, I wanted to make movies. And so I was in a communications degree program. But they emphasized journalism over things like making movies. And so after the first semester, I went to the second semester's journalism class. First class, I'm like, I don't want to do this. And so I basically got the course catalog, biked off to this Riverside location, flipped through it, found what interested me, and I switched my major. So my major for the rest of the time I was there was human development and family studies, which was an interdisciplinary degree which included things like social psychology, anthropology, biology, and so on. So all these different disciplines describe how people develop over time. Now, I had a lot of friends who were engineers, and they're like, oh, that's a fluff major, you should take a real course, right? Which was really them saying, I prefer the world that's black and white rather than really gray, which is reality, right? But anyway, I took a CS class the last term I was there, and I loved it. So then I graduated, and I motorcycled around US and Canada for 5 weeks. And then I taught myself the program. And then I wrote a shareware program that I was selling on my own. I got a master's degree. At the conclusion of my master's, in CS, I sold the shareware program to a larger game company. And then I worked in DC for a year, and I worked as a government contractor, where I was doing programming. And when I was doing that, I realized, you know, I don't really want to be a life-term programmer. And so I went back for a PhD, not knowing what a PhD was, not knowing what research was, right? I got accepted at University of Colorado Boulder, I got accepted at Rice, I got accepted at Georgia Tech. I visited all three of those places, not really knowing what I wanted to do. I went to Georgia Tech. There was some amazing work there with human-computer interaction. I said, this looks interesting. So I went to Georgia Tech. I studied creativity, how we can make computers help people be more creative. Got my PhD, and now I'm here. Okay. So just a very circuitous route. It's not like I planned getting here, right? After I got here, I always had an interest in turntablism and DJs. So I bought a pair of turntables and mixer, and then I learned how to DJ, right? I also wanted to have something that was analog. So something analog to do with my time, so because most of the day I'm working with bass, right? And so, you know, I always had this passion for hip hop since the 80s, and I thought, well, let me try it out. So, the only way to know what you're passionate about is to try stuff out without fear. Okay, that's a good point. I need to add that into my lecture. So the hard rule. So anything worth doing is hard. Okay, otherwise it would have already been done. You have to keep this in mind. Anything at all worth doing is hard. Okay, which is why whenever you see a get rich quick scheme, it always seems so easy, which means it's not going to be real, right? Because anything at all worth doing is hard and requires work and effort. Okay. However, hard does not equal sucks. Okay. Hard can be fun. So challenge yourself. So like exercise, it's like pulling teeth to get started, but you're glad when you finish, right? So invest time in stuff that is difficult to do because it's going to differentiate yourself from other people, right? Anything worth doing is hard, so that's the hard rule. The not normal rule. So don't feel like you have to do what everyone else did. So again, I had this path from social psychology to a shareware game developer to a government contractor to a professor, right? All over the place, right? And actually, even before college, I was an exchange student in high school where I went to Denmark for a year. Okay? Anything you do that sets you apart from the norm is going to increase the value of yourself and other people's values, but it will also inspire you to find out new things and taking directions you hadn't anticipated, which is good. Right? So do something out of the ordinary that's extraordinary, and think back again to the hard rule. It will be hard, but it's going to be worth doing. Okay? The list rule. So keep lists of everything you want to do. So what do you want to do in the next 5 years? Right? What do you want to get done in the next 5 years? This is a hard list to make. What do you want to do this year? What do you want to do this term? What do you want to do this week? What do you want to do today? Keep lists of everything. So I was speaking with Charlie Clark, and I was taking some notes, and I brought this up. This is OneNote for me. This is my list of stuff to do. Okay. So, it's a list of stuff to do, but also notes on this. You want to keep all this stuff there so that when you get to the point in time, you're like, all right, I got some time free. You know, what should I do with my time? Go back to the list, right? To help you get to that 80-year-old, right? So that when you're 80 years old, you can look back with fondness and pride in you. Okay? Find extremely important deadlines to keep you on track. Okay, this is important because otherwise you're like, well, I don't do this. I can do this tomorrow, right? When you have these deadlines, it helps keep you on track and pushes like. Imagine if all the deadlines for this class were kind of optional, right? How many of the assignments would you actually do? Right? Pretty much none. Okay? All right, the final rule, the believe rule. So you will be your own worst enemy. You're going to doubt yourself and doubt your capabilities. All right? Don't question yourself. Don't let others discourage you from your dreams and your passions. All right? The difference between those who succeed and those who don't is hard work, belief in themselves, and actually doing it. Okay? And that's where I am. So thanks. It's been a really great trip to do it. You guys have been great.